Hey, what is up everybody? In today's video, I wanted to talk about how to form high-level connections with individuals in your industry. I just got off a little mastermind call with a handful of buddies of mine. In between us, we probably do like 7 to 9 million a year in revenue, probably taking home 5 or 6 of that. Arguably maybe even more like 10 or like 12 million a year. Like we've got a lot of revenue between us. And I just kind of want to talk about like forming high-level relationships. Like, it's actually quite simple. Like, I think principle number 1 for forming high-level relationships is get good at judging character and picking the right people. So what I mean by this is, just because they're successful doesn't mean that you should associate yourself with them. Because like successful doesn't just mean they're making money. Like in my opinion, success means that they're doing well for themselves, but they're also living life the right way. Like you can't really this is the nice thing about doing well for yourself is that you can't really be swayed by somebody who just has money just for the sake of it, right? And that's an important distinction, I think. Like, you don't just want to be around money just to be around money. You want to be around people that are doing life the right way. Like, these are both men who live life well. You know, they've got fundamental principles for how they operate, very faith-based, very long-term thinkers. And they're not really just building wealth just to cash it out and, like, have a lifestyle business in their early 20s. And I think the oldest one of us on the call just now was like 23. And, we're just talking about getting together for New Year's Eve. So that's the first principle. Get good at judging character. And I think you can get good at judging character by honestly being willing to make mistakes. Like, you have to just commit to certain people and then learn your lessons the hard way. Like, you won't start off being good at judging it. And I used to just, like, hang out with anybody that had money. But then I realized, like, that's not a good long-term strategy because just because they have money doesn't mean they're, like, an honorable human being. So that's the first one. Next is like take people off a pedestal. Like just because they're ahead of you in business doesn't mean that they're like some like god. Like honestly, nobody's really that special. And just even if you have like 10 million, 20 million in the bank cash, like you're not that big a deal. Like, and I think if you can really take money off a pedestal and therefore it's easier to like take those people off a pedestal. And to be frank, like if you're the one person out of the thousands of people that they interact with that treats them like a human being and like, doesn't like bow down to them, they'll actually really respect that and they'll appreciate that about you. So, these people, like they're friends of mine that I've challenged on some of their beliefs and helped them think through some challenging things in their business or their personal lives. And that's something you don't do if you are afraid to challenge them because you're afraid of like losing them as a friend because you need them. So that's another thing is like let go of a need of people. You shouldn't need anybody. Ultimately, you should find fulfillment in your walk with your creator. And if you're a secular thinker, you should find fulfillment in just, who you've become as a person. You shouldn't need anybody, and then it gets easier and easier to have these associations. Another thing is, like, don't leverage the relationship too much. Like, people don't really want to be leveraged. Like, it's really tempting that if you're on a call with, like I've had people do it to me. It's so silly. Like, I'll be on a call with somebody, and they'll like, post on their story, be like, yo, hanging out with these guys, this guy, Trey, like, masterminding with him, and, like, now it makes it look like he's something that he's not. And like take your time before you leverage a relationship. Really take your time and develop the relationship and build trust. And like honestly, in a perfect world, you never leverage them. And like the only leverage you get is just knowing in your heart that you've got the associations that you have, and that gives you a lot of security and a lot of belief in yourself because you've been accepted kind of into like the circle. And that to me is like more important than anything. So don't leverage the relationships. Like people don't want to be leveraged. They know when you're leveraging them. They know when you're just trying to get something out of them. And to be frank, like not needing anything is your greatest weapon. Lastly is like make high-level investments into high-level people. Like, I've spent $20, $30, $40, $50,000 on like masterminds and groups to be a part of. And, I've kind of associated myself in these circles so that I can then create these connections and create this network. And, I have a $100 million network. Like I've got an incredible circle of people around me that have allowed me to think bigger as an entrepreneur and as a business owner because, I've made these investments. People say, hey, Trey, this mastermind is 30 grand. It's got about 40 people in it and they're all 7 figures a year or more. I'm like, yeah, no brainer. I'll throw that money at you right now. Like that's a no brainer for me. And it should be a no brainer for you, even if you're a beginner. Like even if you're a beginner, if I were in your shoes, I'd be willing to take out a literal loan to pay that money because being around those people will be worth millions of dollars for you. Just association. I've spent a lot of money to be around the right people. And this is also why like I buy nice watches. Like I'll show you right here. I've got this watch. This watch is worth like $40,000. And, you know, it's like to some people, they're going to read my tone improperly and be like, that's a weird flex. Like, why would you buy a watch worth that much? But it gets me invited to these events. So like here locally in Indiana, which is where I live, there's these little watch events hosted often by like, you know, dealers that sell the watches. And they'll invite me. They'll say, hey, Trey, you know, you're one of our buyers. You've spent the most with us. Like, I'd love to have you at this event. I'm like, all right, I'll come out to the event. And then every time I go there, there's people, they're wearing like $200,000 watches, and they see that I've got a $40,000 watch, and like immediately there's some mutual respect, and I can spark a conversation. Like, you know, I started a conversation with somebody here locally who actually helps fund startups, and he's got like 500 million in funding opportunities going on right now. He signed like a $120 million deal this past week, and he texted me about it, and we kind of talked about it. And I think that's really cool. Like, I can learn a lot from these people just by associating with them and kind of being on their level. And the last tip is like, don't fake it. You never need to fake anything to be around the right people. Honestly, people appreciate authenticity. Like, when I'm around somebody that's clearly very much bigger than me and like of higher status, I'm just like, dude, I'm just happy to be here with you. Like, I'm happy to learn because I just feel like there's so much I can learn from you. And if you pretend to be on their level when you're very clearly not, they're gonna see right through that, and that's gonna be an issue. So authenticity, you know, building trust and rapport over time. Don't leverage the relationship, paying to be in the right rooms. These are some of my tips. You know, this is how I've built my network, and it's an asset that I don't talk about much on my channel because I think people want the more tactical advice, but this is a very tactical piece of advice that I just haven't talked about a lot. I think especially if you are a business owner trying to, you know, make big waves, like, be willing to invest in your relationships and be on good terms with a lot of people, because I think it's your job as a business owner to have high quality relationships with a lot of people. And it allows me to share notes and learn things for free that, you know, other people might have to pay a lot of money for, or like, you know, figure out on their own. Because I can just text somebody that's doing, you know, 10 or 20 million a year and just be like, yo, what do you think about this? What would you do here? And get their input. And as long as I am willing to humble myself and like ask for input when it's needed, you know, that network is truly the most valuable possible asset that I have. So these are just some tips. If I were to say there's one biggest one, it's pay to be in the right room. Seriously, I'm telling you, being in the right room is everything. Being around the right people is everything. This is actually why we have our mastermind that we have, you know, with, you know, either like 7-figure businesses or people getting to 7 figures rapidly that want to get there rapidly. That's why we do what we do with our mastermind. We've got our 2 offers, Consulting Blueprint and the 7-figure Consulting Mastermind. And that's why we do what we do. We kind of want to create that environment of higher level thinkers. And it's new. You know, we've been doing it for 2 or 3 months, but inarguably it's where some of our best results are coming out of. And not even just tangible results of us giving them coaching and them doing things with it. It's more like the relationships and the network that's coming out of that is more valuable than anything. And so that's why we decided to open that. So yeah, this is just some tips on, you know, building your high value net worth. Sorry. You've heard that phrase before, your network is your net worth, and I believe that to be entirely true. So this is just some input and some advice. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.